It is just me today. Sorry to disappoint. Oh, no!
The DC Mayor sent the White House a letter asking for National Guard help with migrants that have been bused here from Texas and Arizona. Is the president going to approve that request for the National Guard?
And I said this before. I said this last week about Republicans using migrants as a political tool, and that is shameful and that is just wrong. There is a process in place for managing migrants at the border. This is not it, what they're doing currently. So what Republicans are doing, the way that they're meddling in the process and using migrants as a political pawn is just wrong.
So the White House's preference would be for small towns in Texas and Arizona to have to take care of these migrants rather than a large metropolitan city like Washington, D.C.
That is not what I said.
That is what you said.
No,
you said
not,
you think that
I
people
said
are
that
using
there is.
migrants.
Yeah, they are. They're sending migrants to big cities on purpose,
So
using them as a political ploy.
So if they don't go to big cities, where should they
There's
go?
a process. I just laid it out.
There's a process. And they come to a big city, and now the mayor says she needs the National Guard.
That's because Republicans are they're using migrants who are coming here. They're coming here for a better life, and they are being used. Peter, they're being used by Republican governors. That is what's happening.
Does any of this just make the president want to say, this is causing a lot of burdens on small cities, big cities, maybe I should just close the border?
What I'm saying is what Republicans are doing is wrong, and there is a process in place, and we should follow the process. There's a legal process in place, and they should follow it. Okay, thank you.
Well, we need space, and we need the federal government to be involved. So I've asked for the deployment of the Guard, as long as we need the Guard to deal with the humanitarian crisis, that we expect to escalate. The number of people crossing the border seeking asylum, we expect to only go up. And we need to make sure that there is a national response, not an ad hoc city-by-city, state-by-state response. So there is a robust federal response that helps people with transportation on to their final destinations, and in even getting them a legal route to work, into a work permit. And we need a parallel system for the increasing numbers of people that we will see crossing the border.
Today the president argued that the economy is not in a recession. And it was a year ago that the president said that inflation would be temporary. So the question is, why should Americans take his word for it now when the president got it wrong on the economy a year ago?
So here's, when we talk about recession and we talk about where we are currently today, what we look at and what we speak to is the facts, is what other experts are saying and what the textbook definition is of recession. And we're seeing the resiliency of business investment, we're seeing the resiliency of consumer buying power, and that matters. Those are the broad factors that we look at.
But Karine, what do you say to Americans who say, this is really a discussion about semantics, whatever you want to call it? You have Americans all across the country who say it is harder for them to make ends meet every month. They're hurting.
And this is a president who understands that. We have talked about that. We have talked about how we understand what the American people are feeling. We understand what that conversation they are having around the kitchen table about how they're going to deal with cost. I'm going to be very clear. I'm going to say this once. And the president has been very clear about this. He intends to run in 2024. When you look at the work that he's been doing at climate change, when you look at the economy, how he was able to turn it back on when he walked in, businesses were shut down, schools were shut down.
Okay, did the president ask Xi about the findings of that congressional investigation that the Chinese were trying to infiltrate the Federal Reserve over the last couple of years?
We don't have anything to share on that.
Okay.
Beyond the readout that you all got.
Just one more thing. Based on today's GDP report, China now will have a faster economic growth than the U.S. this year. I'm wondering how the White House feels about that.
Look, I'll say this, and I'll quote Secretary Yellen. on what we saw today with the GDP. Generally strong, credit quality is strong. You do not see some significant increase in businesses, bankruptcies. These would be the typical kinds of distress we associate with recession. That was what she said about recession. As to China, look, we also passed, the House just passed the CHIPS Act, which is going to make a difference, which is going to help us make us more competitive.